then Monken was knowingly
Yeah.
deceptive to the media. I'm like, how dare you?
Todd Monken stood in front of reporters and said one thing. Then he did the opposite thing 45 minutes later, and he knew it the whole time he was talking. Not a mistake, not a miscommunication, a plan. Shedeur Sanders was told it was his day with the starters. The fans showed up expecting it. The media reported it. And then Deshaun Watson walked out and took every single rep with the ones. So today, we are asking the question a lot of Browns fans are quietly asking themselves. If your own head coach will look you in the eye and lie about who is starting practice, can you actually trust anything else he tells you? Let's set the scene, because the timeline here is what makes this so strange. Saturday practice, Todd Monken talks to the media about an hour before it starts, and he tells them flat out that it is a Shedeur day. Not maybe, not we will see. He says Shedeur is getting the bulk of the first-team reps, with Deshaun Watson getting a couple here and there. That is the plan he gave reporters on the record. Then practice starts, and Deshaun Watson takes every rep with the number one offense. Not most of them. All of them. Shedeur splits what is left over with Dillon Gabriel, the third guy in the room. Daniel Oyefusi, who covers the team for ESPN, laid it out about as plainly as you can. On the day Shedeur was supposed to run the ones, Deshaun Watson ran every single snap with the starting offense instead. People inside the stadium noticed immediately. Reporters who were there said the crowd itself was confused, asking out loud whether Shedeur was hurt or just not playing that day. That is how obvious the switch was. This was not some quiet depth chart tweak buried in a stat sheet. It was visible enough that fans in the stands were turning to each other trying to figure out what just happened. Now, here is where it gets uncomfortable for Monken. According to Mary Kay Cabot's reporting, Deshaun Watson actually knew he was getting the ones on Saturday right after the walkthrough at around 1:20 in the afternoon. Monken did not talk to the media and tell them it was a Shedeur day until about 45 minutes after that. Read that again. The coach already knew what he was going to do. He had already told his quarterback, and then he walked in front of cameras and said something different. That is not a coach changing his mind in the moment. That is a coach who had already made the call and chose to tell the media a version that was not true. And once you frame it that way, the whole thing looks a lot less like a coaching decision and a lot more like a coach managing a story. Think about how unusual that actually is. This is a first-year head coach in Cleveland, a guy who spent years as an offensive coordinator building play calls, not managing a quarterback circus in front of national cameras every single day. He watched from a distance last season, while the Browns went through exactly this kind of quarterback drama with a different starter and a different staff. He knew walking into this job that every practice rep was going to get counted, every snap tracked, every reporter in that building keeping a running tally of who took first-team reps and who did not. He knew the noise was coming, and he chose on a random Saturday in August to add to that noise instead of just letting the practice speak for itself. That is the part that is hard to explain away as an innocent mix-up.
It was supposed to be on Saturday, a Shedeur day. So much so that Todd Monken, an hour before practice, told reporters it was going to be a Shedeur day. However, the reality is Deshaun Watson ended up getting all the reps with the ones on Saturday. Daniel Oyefusi, who covers the Browns for ESPN, put it into context in the simplest way. On a day when Shedeur was scheduled to practice with the starting offense, Deshaun Watson took every rep with the number one unit.
Here is the thing people close to the situation keep saying, and it is worth actually listening to it. Players who cover this beat and people around the building have said the same message came from people close to Shedeur himself. You take the reps you get, whatever they are, and you play well when your number is called. Nobody around Shedeur is out here demanding an explanation or making it a public fight. That part of the story is actually pretty mature. But that is Shedeur's camp handling it the right way. It does not answer the actual question everybody has, which is why Monken felt the need to say one thing to the media and do another. Because here's what football people will tell you. Coaches change plans all the time. Practice plans shift. Padded practice becomes shells. A period count gets extended because the energy was bad. That kind of adjustment happens constantly, and nobody bats an eye because that is just football. This is different. This was not an adjustment made during practice. This was a coach who already knew the plan before he ever stepped to the podium and told a different plan anyway. There is a difference between a coach saying, "I haven't decided yet," and a coach saying one thing is happening when he already knows the opposite is happening. One is uncertainty. The other one is a choice to mislead the room. And people in this business will tell you that coaches, players, agents, and executives lie to the media constantly. It is treated as almost expected. One person who has covered these podiums for years described getting furious the first time it happened to him early in his career, only to have more experienced reporters tell him, "This is not a truth-telling contest. You are going to get lied to. That is just how it works." So on some level, nobody is shocked that a coach was not fully honest at a podium. What is different here is the why. Coaches usually protect information for a competitive reason: game plans, injury details, things that actually matter if the wrong person hears them. This was a quarterback rotation at a training camp practice in August. There's no scheme to protect, there's no opponent gaining an edge from knowing who takes first-team reps on a Saturday. So if there was no competitive reason to hide it, that leaves a much smaller list of reasons why he would. One veteran reporter on this exact topic told a story about asking a public relations person years ago why it works this way, why the media gets torn apart for getting one detail wrong while the team can stand there and lie to their face and everybody just accepts that as the cost of doing business. And the honest answer he got back was basically, that's just how it is. Nobody made those rules on purpose, and plenty of people covering these teams do not even like them. But that's the deal. The team holds the information. The team decides what version gets said out loud. The media reports what they are given and gets held accountable when it turns out wrong, even if the team fed them the wrong version on purpose. That imbalance is exactly why this Monken situation stands out the way it does. It's not just that he wasn't fully honest, it's that the people who trusted what he said at that podium, the fans who show up expecting to watch Shedeur run the show, the reporters who filed stories based on what he told them an hour earlier, all of them got a version of Saturday that didn't match what actually happened on the field.
That's exactly it. All you have to do is say, "I changed my mind."
Yep, that's it. Change of heart.
And I know there's reports out there that Deshaun knew going in, even before Todd addressed the media.
I think, didn't Mary Kay report that?
Yeah, that
Saturday?
Yeah, that Deshaun knew. Yeah. So, I mean,
here's what Mary Kay said in case anyone didn't see. Steve, it's 44. If you take 44. Mary Kay reported, just so we're all on the same page, as it turns out, Watson knew right after the walkthrough at about noon that he was going with the one Saturday, which was about 45 minutes before Monken told the media that Sanders was still the day 10 QB1.
Now, if that holds true, then
Think about what it would mean if Monken just came out and said Deshaun Watson is my starter after one practice. That is a firestorm. Deshaun has not thrown a real pass in a year and a half after 2 Achilles tears. He is due $230 million, fully guaranteed no matter what happens on the field. Shedeur has been the story of this entire offseason. The record-breaking jersey sales, the record-breaking rookie group licensing number, and by a lot of accounts, he has actually outplayed Deshaun through the bulk of training camp. If Monken stands up and flatly names Deshaun the guy right now, every single headline that day is about how the Browns are ignoring what is happening on the field to protect a $230 million investment. That is a brutal story for a first-year head coach to walk into. So instead, you tell the media it is a Shedeur day. You let that be the story for 45 minutes. And then you let the practice itself deliver the real message without you having to say the words out loud. That is the theory one of the analysts on this exact topic landed on, and it lines up with everything else we know about how this staff has operated. This is not a franchise that solicited trade offers for Shedeur. This is not a team actively shopping anybody. Reporters who cover this closely have said the plan all along was a real two-man competition, running through the bulk of August, decided by the 3 preseason games, not settled in a Saturday practice. If that is actually true, then Monken quietly letting Deshaun dominate one practice while telling the media the opposite is not a decision. It is a message, a test balloon to see how loud the reaction would get. And the reaction was loud. The internet did not take this quietly. People who follow this team closely immediately jumped to the worst-case read, the same worried tone from last year when a different coaching staff kept shuffling the quarterback room without much explanation. The difference this year, and it matters, is that Shedeur has actually improved. His game is different. He has been getting legitimate first-team reps throughout camp, not scraps. So this was not some rookie getting buried. This was a rookie who has clearly earned reps getting them pulled away for one practice, with a version of events that did not match reality handed to the media in the meantime. And it is worth remembering just how big the spotlight on Shedeur already is before you even get to Saturday. This is a rookie who set the all-time group licensing record for any first-year player in league history, blowing past what Tom Brady did and more than doubling what Patrick Mahomes did as a rookie. He is one of the top-selling jerseys in the entire league. He is a big part of the reason the Browns' new stadium project has the buzz it has. None of that decides who starts at quarterback, and it shouldn't, but it does explain why one practice with one confusing story attached to it turns into a national conversation instead of a footnote nobody notices. Compare that to how Shedeur and the people around him actually handled it in the moment. No public complaints, no subtweets, no rhetorical questions thrown out to reporters. Just get the reps you get and play well when it's your turn. That is a very different approach than what happened around this same building a year ago, when comments from people close to a different rookie quarterback leaked out and stirred up a mess that did not need to happen. It looks like a lesson got learned somewhere along the way, even if it wasn't Monken who learned it.
That's an expectation that is unrealistic. Coaches lie all the time.
Coaches, players, agents, GMs, executives, owners.
They all lie. And I remember
Sometimes
when I first
they
got
have
in this
to.
business, one of the first times it happened to me, I was furious. I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah.
And then some of the, more senior members of the media were looking at me like, bro, this isn't a truth-telling contest. You're going to get lied to. The media will always be lied to.
But
I just don't know why he would do it.
So where does this actually leave things heading into today? Monken is going to walk up to that podium again, and you can bet the very first question is going to be about Saturday. What changed between the moment you told us it was a Shedeur day and the moment practice started? He is going to have an answer ready. Maybe he says the staff collectively decided late to switch it. Maybe he just says he changed his mind. Coaches are allowed to do that, and honestly, all it takes is him saying the words and most of this blows over within a week. But here is why this one actually stings a little more than the usual podium fudge. It is not really about the lie itself. Reporters expect to get lied to sometimes. That is just part of covering a locker room. What stings is that this was completely unnecessary. Nobody was asking Monken to reveal a game plan or tip off an opponent. This was one practice period. There was no competitive reason to be dishonest about it, which is exactly why people are reading into the why instead of just shrugging it off like they normally would. And there is a bigger truth sitting underneath all of this that has nothing to do with trust in a coach. Whoever wins this job, whether it's Deshaun Watson coming back from 2 Achilles tears or Shedeur Sanders taking over as a rookie, that person is about to find out what being a franchise quarterback in this league actually means. It never stops. Win some games, they ask how many you actually contributed to. Post good numbers, they ask if those numbers are good enough to stop the team from drafting the position again next year. Even if you answer every single question this season, you get to do it all over again next year with a new set of doubts. Ask Baker Mayfield how that goes. He is still fighting for a long-term deal even after answering plenty of questions already. That is the real stakes conversation buried underneath one confusing practice. This entire quarterback competition is not going to be settled by what a coach tells reporters an hour before a Saturday walkthrough. It gets settled in preseason games, when both guys actually have to go throw for throw against real opponents in front of everybody. Everything else, including whatever happened with Monken and the media on Saturday, is just noise around the real evaluation that is coming. Remember, too, that this is not a competition happening in a vacuum. Deshaun Watson is coming off 2 separate Achilles tears, missing all last season, still owed $230 million fully guaranteed no matter who starts Game 1. Shedeur is a rookie who took over midway through his first season a year ago, once he got a shot and never gave the job back until the year ended. Both of those facts are true at the same time, and neither one gets settled by a coach managing a media narrative for one practice. The preseason games are where this gets decided, throw for throw, drive for drive, in front of everybody, with no room for a coach to control what story gets told afterward.
And the only thing I could come up with was he is soft telling the media who his starter is. And I don't know that that's going to be the case. I don't know if you guys believe that or would buy that. But to me, I'm going through the list of whys. Why would he do this? It's kind of embarrassing to Shedeur. It definitely upset the fans. Deshaun was apparently the only guy in on the gig. And so I'm going through the list of whys, and now I'm trying to go into his head, and that's always dangerous. Only thing I could come up with is he is soft telling the media Deshaun has won the competition.
Let's bring this back together. Monken told the media it was a Shedeur day. Reporting says he already knew it was not 45 minutes before he said it. Watson ran every single first-team rep that day. Fans in the stands noticed the switch before it was even confirmed publicly, and the most reasonable explanation floating around right now is that this was not a mistake at all. It was a coach softening the media up for a decision he was not ready to say out loud yet. Whether that decision is permanent or just a one-day snapshot, we will not actually know until preseason games start and both quarterbacks have to prove it on the field instead of in a walkthrough. That is the only evaluation that is going to matter in the end. And whatever answer Monken gives at today's podium, remember he is going to have one ready. He might just say he changed his mind, and honestly, that alone might be enough for most people to move on. Coaches are allowed to change their mind. What they are not really allowed to do, at least not without some backlash, is tell you they haven't changed it when they already have. So here is the real question for you. Do you think Todd Monken lied to protect Deshaun Watson's job? Or do you think this was just a normal camp adjustment that got blown out of proportion because of who is involved? Drop your answer in the comments. Team honest mistake or team he lied? Either way, this quarterback battle is not close to over, and we will be right here breaking down every single practice report until somebody actually wins the job for real. Smash like and subscribe.